Okay, when I was in school, we had a school called Votech. It was like different things you could do, and I had taken culinary arts. I did very well in that, but once I got out of school, I'm like, you know what? I would love to help people. So then I still went to Votech, but I went for medical assisting to be a nurse's aide and all that stuff. So we went through that, and I worked at a nursing home for about 2 years. Then I went on my own, went through an agency and worked in people's homes. My first client I had was a lady. I was only with her for 2 weeks. I was left in her will in 2 weeks. Now that was back when Kevorkian was around, and I feel, which I don't have any proof, but I feel that the nurse did something because at that time they called the whole family into the home. They all went into the home with the lady by themselves to say their goodbyes. And the last person who was in there was her son, and her son said, "Dana, she's asking for you." I said, "Okay." So I had went in there, and she weighed maybe 90 pounds. I sat on her rocking chair. I lifted her up, put her on my lap, and I was rocking her, and she asked me to sing to her. I started to sing to her, and I noticed she kind of went limp. So my first client passed away in my arms, literally. And I feel that the Dr. Kevorkian thing was in that, but I don't have no proof that that happened. And I haven't really had that many people because once I'm with a client, I do not quit or leave to go to another client. I will stay with that client till they pass or till they no longer need me. So my next client I was with for 26, 27 years, and he was the one that had a head injury. And I did everything for him. I drove his van, he had his own house, I had a key to his house, everything. But while I was working with him, one of the caregivers were a male and he sexually abused him. And I was devastated. I found out because I was transferring him into his van, and I said, "I asked you if you had to go to the bathroom and you said no." And he said, "I didn't." And I said, "Okay, we have to go in the house, so we have to change your clothes." So when I was getting him undressed, it wasn't urine, it was blood coming from his rectum. So I was livid. I didn't know what to do. I'm crying. So I ended up taking him to work, and I said, "You have to tell your boss." He told his boss. He was immediately fired from the agency where he worked. But what upset me so much is the family did not believe their own son, turned around and hired this gentleman to still work with him, knowing what he did. So I told the family, I can't do this. I can't live and take care of him when I know what's going on. And that was the same family I only worked for, and I was with the agency at the time when I started with him. I only worked 2 weeks with him, and they wanted me to go on my own. They didn't want me to go through the agency. And I said, "I signed a contract with the agency, and there's a $10,000 fee that I would have to get out of to go on my own." So they paid that family paid the $10,000 to get me out of my contract so I could be self-employed with them. And I was with him for like 28, 27, 28 years, and that happened. So I've seen a lot. So when I adopted my son, I had asked the family to give me, the allowed time off for a maternity leave, and they said no. I said, "Okay, then I'm going to have to quit." They said, "No, you're not going to quit. We fire you." So I was gone 2 weeks on the leave. They fired me, and there were 6 siblings. 4 of the 6 called me to come back to work with their brother. And I said, "I'm not coming back unless your dad calls me and says, 'Dana, we want you back. We're willing to take you back.'" And in that 2 week time period, he had a machine that was attached to his wheelchair that was like a little laptop. And he would push it and then it would speak for him. The aide took that. The other aide took their mail. So a lot of things happened in that 2 week period. That's why they wanted me back. Because you and I both know caregivers are very, very hard to find. And still to this day, I get new clients all the time and I never advertise. It's all word of mouth. And I get sometimes 3 calls a day. Sometimes. Then I'll go weeks without no calls. And I tell them before we start talking, I'll say, if you use me as a caregiver or if you go to anywhere else, if you go with an agency, first thing I tell the families is put cameras in their house. They cannot be in the bathrooms, but I tell them, all of them. And I said, don't tell none of us. Don't tell me. Don't tell anybody you hire, because that's your thing for watching people coming in your home or their home to take care of the loved ones. And it works out great. It works out great. I now work in people's homes and I go to facilities, because I'm telling you, these facilities, they pay $10,000 a month. They do absolutely nothing for these people. They don't get them out of bed. They don't give them their food. They never give them water. And when I'm working with these clients at these facilities, the facilities managers will come to me and say, Dana, do you want a job here? I said no, because I could never take the people who work there for how they treat these clients. Well, he probably came on, I would say, anywhere from 15 to 18 years after I worked with him, because I was the day shift, his sister did the afternoon shift, and his other sister did the night shift. So I was the only person for that many years other than this family. Then the family kind of got sick of it, so then they hired other people, but there was issues with them. The person who would work afternoons, she was always in such a hurry. She had zipped his balls and his privates. He got 140 stitches for her negligence, because she's such in a hurry to get everything done and in a hurry to do something. It was, so his mother put, at that time, took all the zippers out of his pants and put Velcro so this wouldn't happen again. But I've never had problems with it. It's just other people do things the different ways. And I've always said this. I work with people and I also work at Kohl's department store. I love taking care of people. You have to love your job to go to your job every day and do it with a smile on your face. Just like right now, I see that big smile on your face. I know that you love doing this. Now, I don't know about in your state. I'm having an issue now with one of the, I go to a memory care place, and I have a very bad feeling. I have a really hard time with this, but I go in the morning early, okay, and I go in the facility, and there's codes. I have to get rung in to open the door, which is fine. But I do not feel that the patients should be locked in their rooms. That is a fire hazard. How are those patients going to get out of that room? Because half the time, there's no nurses on staff. The place that I work for, they have janitorial people, and they don't even have to go to school, any schooling, for nursing assistant, to be an aide, to be a nurse. No schooling assistants to be a med passer. That's all they need is a camera, is a laptop. They open it up and it tells you what pills to give to who at what time. They have no schooling whatsoever. I think that's 100% wrong. And this gentleman who manages this place wants me to work for there. work for them after the gentleman that I work for now there passes. I said, absolutely not. And I said, I'm going to be honest with you. It has nothing to do with you. This is what I'm telling to the guy. It's the system, because it's how you guys hire these people to give meds, and they have nothing to do. They don't even know what they're doing. And the med tech, which she was a janitor before, the gentleman that I take care of, he's bone on both of his knees. So he has a liquid medication that they are supposed to put on his knees. And then I wait 45 minutes. Plus I do PT and OT with them. I do range of motion, I do walking, everything with them. So when I am doing that, it's like they give me the medication to do when it's their job. So they're paying, $10,000 to stay there. Then they got to, on top of that, pay me to come in, and they need to do their job. And right now, I would never work for a facility again after seeing how many people have an issue working, and the issues with being with patients. I've watched the news, and there was two aides from another nursing home abusing this gentleman, throwing him in the bed and smacking him. Well, the family was suing the nursing home and these people. Come to find out, the aides just moved across the street to work at one of the facilities that I worked at. So I went into the office and I said, you know what? I don't know what channel you watch. I watch channel 2, but I said, you have two aides here that have been on the news. They're being accused of smacking. I said, I saw it firsthand. And I said, you turned around and hired them for here? You know what their answer was? Dana, it takes a long time to do a background check. I don't care how long it takes you. Don't hire someone unless you check their background. And that facility is already closed. Oh yeah. Yep. And over COVID, I was at that facility, and they did not allow me because I was not their employee. But the gentleman that I took care of went downhill so fast. A new company bought the place out. So they had called me and said, Dana, you could come in your 8-hour shift a day in the morning, like I was doing. But every morning I would have to get a COVID test. I said, I don't have an issue. But I said, I'm not waiting in 3 and 4 hour lines before I come to work to get these tests. I said, you test your nurses. I said, if you're allowing me to come, then you test me every morning when I come to work, because I'm not standing in line. So they agreed. And my very first day back, his breakfast was on his desk at the other side of the room, and he was bedridden. They never gave him nothing to eat. So there was a banana. I smushed a banana really good with my fork, and I was giving it to him, and he was like, this is so good. So the manager came in and said, Dana, we have to do your COVID test. I said, well, I told them at the door, and they didn't do it. So I told them, I said, I'll be right back to my client. By the time they did my COVID, I came back, he passed away. So everybody at the nursing home knew me. They all said, Dana, he was waiting for you to come back before he passed. And he was 97 years old. And I was also left in his will. So you know if you're a good caregiver, that happens. And if you're in it just for the money, like all these people are at these nursing home places, they don't do crap. It's very, very hard. I mean, it does take a toll. I mean, just like you said, when you go for a walk, something might trigger you when you were walking with, the man you're speaking about. And it does me too. And then it'll pop up on my Facebook that it's that person's birthday who passed away, or, this is the anniversary that he passed away, or whatever. Or even like the one gentleman that I worked for so long, he loved Led Zeppelin. Every time I hear a Led Zeppelin song, I just think of and I kind of get a tear in my eye. So it's very hard. Are you talking like a therapist or something like that? I'm not right now. I don't have really no time. My time, I mean, sometimes I start at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't get home until 7. Sometimes it's earlier. It just depends. The only time I have for myself Saturday and Sundays. But I love being busy because if I'm not busy, the time goes just so slow. I like to stay busy and doing something. And like I said before, I love to help people. And in a sense, even when I go to Kohl's, I'm literally helping people. And that's just me. And like you said, you have to have a calling for this because everybody cannot be a caregiver. I've seen people in the past be caregivers and they realize themselves they can't do it. So that's a good thing that they realize themselves. Then if something happens and it just goes the other way. But I know a lot of people, as my husband works for Ford's Motor Company and he wants to retire. And you know what? I just feel I don't think I'll ever retire. I'll probably caregive till I die because that's something that I like to do. I love to go to movies. Yes, love movies. In the summertime, I like to be outside, swimming, being in the pool, being outside. I absolutely love animals because when the gentleman that I was with for so long passed away, towards the end, I knew it was coming. And I thought about other things to do, and one of them was to be a veterinarian. And I talked to my vet because I have lots of animals, and my vet said, "Dana, I don't think no way you would be a good vet." And I kind of teared up and I said, "Why?" He said, "Dana, you will have a zoo at your house because anybody who comes and brings something to be put down to sleep, you're going to take it home." And you know what? He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. I mean, when my cat, if a bee comes in the house, because my cats aren't allowed outside, if a bee comes in my house and my cat gets stung and he's swollen, I'm like frantic. And I'll take him to the vet. And me and the vet are very close. And he's like, "Dana, it's a bee bite. We're just gonna give him a shot." "No, I want you to take blood work." And I'm telling him what to do. And he's like, "Dana, that's unnecessary." I said, "I don't care. I want you to make sure." Because I'm a freak because I mean they don't have no voice. I have to be their voice. I'm their mama. I got to be their voice. Yeah, it was very hard for me at that time because his dad was a councilman at the time. So he was a big wig, and everything was prim and proper, this and that. But it was like he was afraid to talk about things. So I more or less had to, confront him and converse with him. It's okay. You have to tell me. I have to know to find out and try to solve the problem. But I was in the wrong because what he told me, I lost it. I just was crying so hard. I didn't know what to do for him. And I was lost. So his boss, where he worked, is my friend. She had came to my wedding shower, everything. So we were friends. So I had told him while I was driving him to work that day, I said, "Honey, I said, you have to tell because she will help us through this because I can't be the only one that you tell because it's going to be my words against his words." I said, "You have to tell someone else." So when we went in her office, it was very hard because I stood behind him. He's in a wheelchair because he's paraplegic. He has a head injury. And I said, has something to tell you." And she knew it was wrong because I was already starting to tear up. So when he finally told her, she was livid. She immediately called the agency where he worked, and he was immediately fired because she said, "If you don't fire him, I will turn you into the state like now." And they're like, "No, no, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it." So he was immediately fired. But what I felt so hurt that the family didn't believe their own son and turned around and hired, and he would take him for a weekend, like for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, out of town. So that poor man, I mean, I just my stomach turns to think what went on for those 2 days with him. You know, that bothers me, and like I said, I was so scared to tell anybody. You know, he trusted me enough to tell me. And thank God that we knew because it was 2 years later and that gentleman died of AIDS. And I told the family that needs to be checked for AIDS and they would not do it. So I went to, which is his boss, and I said, "I don't feel too comfortable about this because he had passed away of AIDS." And I said, "I'm working with," and I said, with I mean, I know it's usually sexually transmitted, but I worry about myself getting something. So she said, "You could take him, but just, don't let any of the records go to their house." So that's what I did. And he did not have AIDS. Thank God. But while I was working with him, his dad had an issue, and it was something like it was a girlfriend issue. And there was an incident when I was at the house, and I guess dad called me in the other room, and there was a big butcher knife on the table, and the girlfriend was behind his dad, and he's looking at me and looking at the knife and looking, like, so I knew something was going on. So I went in the other room and called the daughter, and I said, "You got to get here. Something's going on with your dad and this chick." I said, "I don't even know who this is." So no sooner get off the phone, he's screaming for me. And I go running upstairs. She straddled him and cut him from the right ear to the left ear across the neck. I put my hand around his neck, grabbed the bedspread off his neck, off the bed, put it on his neck, put his hands there, and I said, "Squeeze it really hard." I grabbed her by the back of the shirt, threw her against the wall, and I said, "Get your ass out of this house now." So she wasn't going, so I was more or less pushing her down the stairs. By the time she got to the bottom of the stairs, the daughter was there. So the police came with the helicopters. She took off by foot, and she took off running. So they ended up they did find her, but I had to go to court case and everything. So that, and then had passed a couple years later, and then the family asked me. They said, "Dana, we put dad in hospice, and he doesn't want anyone to take care of him except you. Will you come and take care of him?" I said, "Absolutely." So I was there about 2 days, and then he passed. So the family said, "Dana, he was waiting for you." So it makes me feel good that all these people wait for me, but it's hard on me when they pass because it's a big responsibility, you know. Well, I can tell you're way younger than me. So for someone who is a lot younger than me to see that firsthand, I'm sure it's very devastating because I don't know if Christian told you, but Christian was at my mom and dad's house when my dad passed away. So it was very tough for Christian as well to go through stuff like that as well. So and we all see death. Some people take it different than others, but because I guess I'm a caregiver and I'm with it all the time, it's it's tough. And some people just take it as, "Oh, okay, he passed or she passed." I'm not like that. Well, the one gentleman who was 97 who passed away, that was the one that was in a facility and they wouldn't let me there over COVID, and then I came back. Um, he owned a business. He didn't have any children. His wife had passed away. So I was the only family more or less he had, other than like through his wife's sisters, like through his wife's family, okay? But he wanted me to be his power of attorney. I did not want that on my hands. Um, I did everything. I just I declined on doing that. And he had a lot of money because he wanted to open a nursing home or a group home, and he wanted me to run it. And I said, you know what? I don't want that responsibility. That's too much responsibility. Because he lived at home at first when I first started taking care of him. Because I would leave and I would work 7 to 3 with, and then he lived in the same city as me. So I would have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or run to McDonald's, eat something, and then I would go to his house till like 7, 8 at night. And then when he did pass away, then I was just going to his house Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. And I did everything, took him grocery shopping, took him to the bank. So when he sold his business, I more or less was a secretary too. I did all of that, all the banking. I was on his banking, everything. So it's a lot of responsibility. And, my mom is getting older now, so I'm sure I'm going to have to do it for my mom. So, yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. Yes. But again, we have to do what we have to do. And I felt bad for him because he had nobody. Nobody would come and see him. He wouldn't go nowhere for Christmas because he had nobody. So I would always invite him to my mom's house, and I would pick him up and take him there, or take him to take him food or whatever. Because all these people who don't have families, they don't have nobody. You feel sorry for them. And there's a lot of people out there that aren't like you and I. They could care two craps about it. But there people like you and I, we care about people like that. There should be more people like us in the world. Well, like again, I feel that, if say if they have a sibling or a sister or a mother or something, and they're saying, well, we do it this way, and we want you to take them to the grocery store, and we want it at this time, and we usually do this and this and this. I take what they're saying, but it might not necessarily mean that's how I would do it, because it might not fit the way we click. You know what I'm saying? Because they might do something different than the way I would do it, but don't get me wrong. I will listen to say, "Well, oh, that's a great way," but I might not necessarily be able I don't feel comfortable doing it that way. And just like when I get new clients all the time, they're like, "Well, can you start, Tuesday at 3 o'clock?" I'm like, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "Before I start any client, I always go to their home, meet them, and meet the person who is hiring me, because that person might not like how I dress. They might not click with me. It could be a lot of different things. So you can't just go by, oh, can you start at this time? You have to meet them and get comfortable with them first before you start something like that. There was this other gentleman that I worked for. I mean, he just lived like right around the corner. And she heard about what I did from somebody she knew, and she's like, I only need you 2 hours because it's like to get this gentleman ready for bed and to put him on the potty, but he's a two-person lift." And she said, "My husband will be with you the 2 hours that you're there, but it's a two-person lift." And I'm like, okay, because I mean, I can lift pretty big. I'm a big girl to begin with, so I can lift pretty much a lot of weight. So we did it, and of course there was cameras in the room. and she was more or less the POA from him for him, and she was upset because he wanted to move to another state, and it would take away her money because she didn't want to go. So she had taped him playing with himself, and he showed me. She showed me. And I said, "You should never, ever show this to anyone." But she was angry with him. That's why she did it. So I am so glad that the gentleman moved because I didn't really want her in his life to begin with after her doing that, you know. So hopefully it was a good, break and there was no animosity with them too. But I mean, I could tell you so many stories that I have seen and done, just like the girl that I told you who worked with about the zipper situation. She would go to the grocery store and leave in the van. And who was her boss that I know, she's like, "Dana, you don't work on the weekends, do you?" And I'm like, "No, why?" She's like, "I went to Kroger's and I was in the van and I came out of Kroger's and he was still in the van." I'm like, "What?" So she just would do her stuff and leave him in the van. And I'm like, I can't believe that nobody, called the police or something because they were parked in a handicap because his van's handicapped. But he just sat there. And I mean, this is saying a lot. I This is not a funny story because I was pretty upset. I had one of those big tall glasses and I had it in the cup holder, and he had forgot something at work. And I said, "Are you okay for me to run in to go get it?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I had came out and the lid of my cup was off. And I'm like, "What the heck? What?" So I looked in there and there was pubic hair in there. He peed in my glass. And I was like, oh, I was livid. I was like, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Oh, I thought it was funny." And I'm like, I'm to take care of you. You don't do stuff like that. But I mean, it didn't mean like I hurt him or did anything. I was just very upset, you know. And I was making a peanut butter sandwich one time and he wanted another one. And I said, "Well, let's eat that one first. And if you want another one, I'll make you another one." He took the knife and stabbed me in the hand. I still have the scar. And that didn't mean like I hit him or punched him or anything like that. But I mean, I was upset, but I just left the room. But a lot of people take anger when something like that would happen. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that I could tell you stories about. And you know what? The worst of it is our family. Families take advantage the most than if you would have a caregiver. I'm not saying caregivers don't take advantage, but families take advantage the most. I have called the state on homes. Like if they were in a nursing home, I've called state on homes and I've called them on family because family was one of them. And I was very worried that they would find out that I was the one that called because I didn't want them to do anything to me because I didn't want them to know it was me calling. But yes, I have. I would be more happy with myself that that client is taken care of if it had to be taken out of the nursing home or put in another nursing home or taken away from a family than for me to lose my job. I don't care. I could get another job. I'm just more worried about that client or patient getting better care or to be safe. That's what I'm worried about. And you usually are like that if you're a good caregiver. That's what you do. You don't let them stay in abusive problems or issues or anything like that. Well, usually it's stealing stuff. That is probably one of the biggest. If it's not money, it's items. Just like the gentleman who was 97 years old, I would take him to his bank to go to his safety deposit box, and the bank would allow me to be in there with them because usually they don't. Usually it's that person. So they allowed me, and I'm right next to him, and there's a camera there that shows everything. So we would go there quite often, and he had his wife's wedding ring. Now, I told you he already owned a company. He has, I mean, when he left me, the most he could leave me was $10,000. He left me $10,000, but before he passed away, we had he had given me money for IRAs to be put in my name, because when you're self-employed, you don't get no money. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So he hooked me up in that way. So he had taken his wife's wedding ring. We took it back to the nursing home, and he had it in his pocket of his coat. And I said, I don't really think that that should be left in your coat because it's going to get taken. And he's like, no, no. His niece from the other side was coming that night to visit him. So he said that he was going to give it to her. Well, it came up missing. The coat is gone, and the ring was gone. And he's the one that put it there. It was on the camera. I watched him do it, and it was missing. So there are, and people steal stupid stuff. He had a roll of stamps. One of the aides at the nursing home took a roll of stamps. I mean, he had little bottles of like vodka and stuff in his drawer. The nurse was so stupid, drank it, and there's little bottles of mouthwash. The mouthwash was there with the lid off. So it must have just happened before I had came to work, because I'm like, did you drink anything yesterday? And he's like, no, why? I said, well, there's 2 vodka bottles and your mouthwash here. He goes, what? And he was fuming. He goes, I want the director up here right now. So I had to go down. I explained to him. I said, he wants to see you guys now. So when I'm walking back upstairs from the office, I see the nurse. She can barely walk. So she's the one. It was obvious that she was the one. And I'm like, oh, I said, it's time to get cameras in here. Because if I'm not here, I don't know what's going on. Because he was telling me that things were missing, and I thought maybe he misplaced them. Well, I saw for my own eyes that it wasn't misplaced. These things were actually happening. And a lot of times when someone has dementia or Alzheimer's or anything, when they're getting old, we all think, well, maybe they misplaced it. Maybe they didn't put it. They said they did, but they didn't. That's why, again, like you said, the cameras are the best thing, because that will show that they are telling the truth. Because people won't believe them because they're getting older or they have dementia or whatever. So they do really need the cameras. And if you were doing your job, you shouldn't worry about cameras. You shouldn't even care if there's a camera. If you're doing your job the right way, that has nothing on you. Because people are like, why would you tell them to get a camera? I said, I'm not hiding nothing. If you're doing your job, you shouldn't feel like, why should you tell them to have a camera? But now the families thank me before I start, because they do get the cameras and they do find things out that are going on. And a lot of times, I can't say a lot of times, but some of the people that I've worked for did have a lot of abuse from the attendants or the aides or the nurses or whatever. Like black eyes, zipping, remember, with the stitches. So and even in the bathroom they would have a baby monitor, like when you have a baby, they had a baby monitor in his room. So it was kind of sensitive because it was close to the bathroom. And when the aide was yelling at, they could actually hear through the baby monitor because she was so loud yelling at him. And they would come from their house. They didn't live very far, like maybe a block or 2. They would come and say, you know what, Sue, I think it's time for you to leave for the day, because I heard you talking about, like, I heard you talking to my brother. It's time for you to take the rest of the day off. So, and I think that's good, because like you said, everybody gets burnout. No, not at all. Because usually, if I work with someone, it's usually probably only me, and the other people who would work with them would be families. Now, the when I go to these homes, it's just me because they can't really afford to pay anyone because they're already paying $10,000 to stay there. Then they're paying me on top of that. So it's only me. And sometimes I feel that I should be there longer because I know when I'm there, he's getting good care. He's getting the water that he's supposed to drink. He's getting the exercise, getting out of the bed, getting into the chair, going to the bathroom. If I'm not there, I don't know what goes on because when I leave Friday, I'm only there in the morning. So then when I get there on Monday, his room's a disaster because I'm not there and nobody goes and sees him. So everything's out of the closet. The floor's a mess. There's, feces in the toilet that they don't even flush the toilet. They don't give him a shower. The clothes are loaded up, overflowing out of the hamper. So it's like I know he gets good care when I'm there. After I leave, I don't know what happens. And I tell the families that if you want me longer, I could do it, but you have to tell me. I don't know when I leave at this time. If it happens 2 minutes later, I won't know. If you want more care, then you might have to have me longer or hire someone else. But it's a shame that you pay all that money for these facilities and you have to go on top of that to pay someone else because they're not doing their job. And I think it's going to come down to that these homes are not going to allow outsource aides to come in. I feel because like over COVID, they wouldn't allow me to go. And a lot of places don't want outside attendants or aides or nurses to come in because they feel, well, you're here at my facility, you have to use what we have. I just feel in years to come that's going to happen. More people have to be involved, not just one person, because you have to have a team, not just like it can't be on one person's shoulders. So you have to have a team do it. So like I said, when I work one on one, it's just me. I can only do so much. So if they have a daughter or if they have children, they all have to work together. You can't have four kids and one before something and the aide before something, but the other three against it. You have to be together or it's not going to work. And that's with anything really. You all have to work together. Everything has to be worked together. And there, of course, there's going to be some mishaps, or someone's going to say, well, I don't like it this way. And that's fine. That's their decision. But you got to kind of stick together. I really didn't, with the only source of, outside the home was when he went to work. And there for a while, he went to it was called a workshop, but it was more like he might have did a couple, like there might have been like 12 or 15 patients and their caregivers were there, but they didn't speak on what they were talking about, but they were in the room and they would talk about like what they were going to do during the week or was there any issues, kind of like a not a council, but kind of like somewhere for them to go to talk about things. Okay. And then, like on Fridays, they might have an outing. Like maybe we would take all of them to the zoo or we would take them to a baseball game or something. And I feel that everybody needs to go outside, not stuck in a room at these facilities without going anywhere. Even I take my clients for a walk all the time or we go get ice cream or like the ladies that I take care of if they're in their homes, I usually buy stuff and we make cookies. And I love to go to garage sales, so I pick up a lot of puzzles and games and I don't know if you're familiar with the MoCA test. Are you familiar with that? That's for Alzheimer's and dementia people. And there's a test that it's called a MoCA test. And I've seen a lot of things at garage sales that they use for that. So I buy them. So I have them in my car and I take them and I work with that with the clients. And yeah, a lot of them can't do it, but it's something to do instead of just sitting in your room. But other than that, we never really, no church thing, no, because there's really not a lot of things that I know of that is like that. There might be some strictly for head injury clients, like the Head Injury Alliance Association, or, if someone has MS, there might be something specific for someone who has MS. But I've never been to do something like that, or the family might not want them to do that. See, because it's more like I'm kind of hired from the family, so I have to do what they say. But I keep the client that I'm working for busy enough that they're not worried about something to do. But again, once you leave, you don't know what goes on. So, yeah. I've taken some of the clients if they wanted to go to church, like on Easter or Christmas, and that's usually on a Sunday. But if they ask me, could you take me to church or something? I've done it, but on a whole, we don't do it all the time. It's just whenever they ask or something. But I'm kind of flexible. Like if I don't have nothing to do, I don't have an issue if they call me and say, hey, my caregiver's out of town. Can you do it this day? And I don't have an issue with it. It's funny because yeah, I do like a lot of stuff like with the ladies, like I do a lot of like baking cookies or cooking something and get them involved with it. And if it was the males, you know, I would take them to the grocery store, help them, pick stuff out at the grocery store. And when we go home, if it's even just to do some range of motion exercises that just to get them moving and doing something other than their normal, usual stuff, sitting in front of the TV or, you know, now, a lot of times I like to do stuff outside because that gets them out and not enclosed all the time. So that I like to do a lot of things outside with them. And I never had I always bought, well, I didn't buy, but I usually lease my automobiles that are big enough. I did have an expedition for many years and it was too hard for my clients to get in. So I got a different, I have an escape now because I want them to be easier to get in and out of my automobile. Well, like I said, I go to a lot of garage sales. So if I see something that I think that would help the clients, I always buy stuff like that. Or I pick up stuff that I think that I could use with the clients. If it's and yeah, like books or finding like this page has a picture and the same pictures on the other side, but find differences in the pictures. Remember those when you were kids? They had them in the hot. Yeah, I buy stuff like that. Just little stuff that could help. And I have, well, you know what? It was funny because I was telling Christian when he was telling me about you making things and stuff, and I was telling him, I said, my husband and I were going to the grocery store and it was snowing, and I saw this gentleman in an electric wheelchair, and I've been with a lot of people with electric wheelchairs, so I know how they work. So I said, Brian, pull the car sideways so nobody could get down the road because there was snow in the road and he was stuck. I hop out of the car and I said to the gentleman, I said, I work with people in the wheelchairs. I said, I know what you're gonna do. I'm gonna take it out of the mode and I'll put it in manual and I'm gonna push you off the road. So I did that. And a policeman with two police officers were watching me the whole time. So after I got him off to the sidewalk, I said, "Are you okay? Do you want me to take you home? Do you want me to watch you to go home?" He goes, "No, I just live down the street. I'm fine." I said, "Okay, try to stay in the sidewalk. Don't go in the heavy snow or you're going to get stuck again." And he's like, "Okay." So I get in the car, and do you know, we get a ticket because my husband was blocking traffic. I said, "But you guys sat in your car and watched me and didn't help me, but you're going to give me a ticket." But we fought it. We got out of it. But I was telling Christian that I feel that somebody should make something for these electric wheelchairs that the tread is like a tank tread that goes around both the big wheels and the little wheels, so it will go in deep snow because so many people get stuck in snow when they have electric chairs and they're not mobile, they don't have the mobility to go down and click it to go on manual to push themselves because those chairs are very heavy. So I mean that's one of the things I just buy stuff for, you know, to go and to help the clients that I have. Models are another one. Legos and like models to put together and stuff. I see you have Legos behind you. And then I'll like get a piece of paper and cut them, you know, pretty okay size. And then I'll put like cat, dog, bird, fish, and then I'll put pets, and then I'll put milk, tea, coffee, pop, and then I'll put drinks, and then I'll mix them all up, and I'll say, okay, let me have all the drinks, or give me all the colors, or whatever, and just I kind of like make stuff up, but sometimes a lot of clients kind of think it's kiddish. So then you have to go to something different. Or get a deck of cards and maybe take 6 different matches and kind of play concentration, flip them all over so they can't see them, and then they'll have to only flip 2, and then they'll have to remember where those 2 cards are. If they flip a 8 and an ace, then they flip a 6 and an ace. Where was that ace at? You know, something like that. But I don't do all of them. I'll just do like 6 cards because if you give them too much, they kind of like lose interest if you give them too many cards to do. When I come home, some people, when they leave work at home. I don't. I bring it home with me. So I'm a big talker. So when I come home, I like to talk to my husband about my day and what happened, or what I could do different, or this happened, but I should have done this, or this happened with this one. So I like to talk about the day. So I wish that there was more like groups that people could talk, like aides or nurses, that if there was like a group that we could get together and talk about things that we could do different to better care for clients or patients or whatever. Now, I'm sure if I worked at a hospital or a nursing home, I'm sure they might have that, but I don't work at a nursing home or a hospital. I'm like self-employed. So there's really nothing, there's no place that, self-employed people go to, talk about stuff like that. I mean, I have friends that are nurses and we talk like that, but I mean, not like different people. Do you know what I'm saying? I would feel that it would, but I can't answer for other people. But I think it would. I think it would help myself. Um, I don't know how others see. Sometimes people don't like to talk about things that happen, and then there's some people that would. Like you and I, we don't have an issue with talking about it, but some people they kind of do. And like I'm not one to be in front of the camera. That's why I'm like I told Christian, I'm like, I don't want the camera on. She's like, oh no, you don't have to. But like I'm better with doing it this way than if I was in front of people because I feel like they judge me on how I look, or I'm not, thin enough, or I don't know, or her hair's got gray in it or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. But I would feel more comfortable doing it this way than if I would go in a big group, like in an auditorium or something, is what I'm saying. Yeah, because I would much rather do it like you and I are doing it now. Because when my dad passed, my mom wanted to go to grief counseling and she went by herself. And then she wanted me to go with her. And then we did a thing at the church. And the one at the church, I just thought was like a waste because it's like, this was not for me. And for me, I don't know why, but, and this is just my belief, but I just feel that God is the one that took my dad. And I'm like, that's why I don't go to church anymore. Before I used to, but he left me down. So, that's how I feel. But that's just on my dad. That's just my dad thing. But with my clients, it's something different. But yeah, I could do it better when it's just you and I, or even if somebody else was there, or a group setting. But like again, without the camera and doing it like this, and I'm surprised nobody else opened up, and you were the only one that said something. But you know what? That's worse if you keep it to yourself, because one day you're just gonna flip and you're just gonna go out there, and that's the worst thing to do. You can never keep it in. Yeah, that's the worst. Usually, if there was, they usually come to them in the rooms, and then, but a lot of times the patient wants me to be there and the therapist doesn't want me to be there. So it's up to them what they want. I'll back and I say nothing, but it's like sometimes I just think it's to suffice to say they're a therapist. Like to me, I don't really think they're really doing anything. Like, because they're not really getting to the root of the problem or asking them, what they could do to help them. It's like, well, what's going on? That's what the first thing is. It's not what can I do to help you? It's what's going on. And of course, if someone is afraid, or like, because a lot of times when people are in facilities, they are afraid if they say something, they will get not abused, but not treated the same way as if they didn't speak up. Like if they said, oh, this aide was kind of rough with me when she was putting me on the potty. And they don't want to say that because they know that that next time, if they find out that he's the one that said it, then she's going to be even more rougher the next time. So they don't want to say something because they're afraid, because they're in a facility that they're not familiar with. Then you have all these different people. And like, I don't know if you've ever went to a facility or anything, you got different people all the time. The turnover in these places are ridiculous. And then with when COVID was, all I seen, I mean, I was on all these people's Facebooks and stuff. You get this free money from the state. So what do? You go to a different state, fly a different state, and be there in Florida or Vegas. Then you're going to come back. And then all these people get sick from COVID because why? All these nurses go out of the state, get sick, bring it back to them, and that's what I don't understand. I was like, I was amazed. I'm not allowed to go in there, and I'm not going anywhere. But all these nurses are allowed to take care of them and go to Vegas, go to Florida, go to vacations, come back and get all these people sick. That's what I didn't understand. But with the therapy thing, I don't really think they do much, because usually it's like a facility therapist will come in, and they really don't do much. They just ask, "Well, what's going on?" But they don't give a situation, "How can I help?" or "What can I do to help you?" They don't really do that. And you know what I hate the most is when I would take my clients to the doctors, or when a doctor would come in and I would be in the room and they knew who I was. Instead of that doctor talking to the patient, they would talk to me. And I would go out of the room and I would have them come out of the room with me. And I'd say, you know what? That patient is right there in that room. If you have anything to tell him about his care, you tell him. And I'm right here to observe everything, to listen to what you're saying. And when you leave, or you could do it even when you're here, ask him if he understands. If he doesn't understand, then explain it. Or when you leave, I will ask my patient and say, do you understand what's going on? Because half the time they're talking to me, and that poor client, number one, can't probably hear him because he's talking to me, not the client. And they don't explain what goes on. Like one of my clients was getting a heart cath. He didn't even know what he was getting done. The doctor never explained to him. I had to explain it to him. And he was all freaked out because he didn't know. They just feel like they're nobody. I'm sitting right here. Why are you talking to them when it's about me? I mean, if I was that person, that's how I would feel. My client that I work with now, he has macular degeneration, which I have that too. Well, he had macular degeneration in 2019. Well, now his left eye, he's completely blind. And I told the family, I said, he has not been seeing right. He keeps taking his glasses. When was the last time you took him for an eye exam? Oh, it's been a while. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to take him for an eye exam. Well, they told me right then and there. He's completely blind in the left eye, and he has the dry mac in the other one. And I said, well, if he has the dry in the right eye, can you give him the medication that I'm on so it doesn't go into the wet mac? So that's what we're doing. Well, now he's getting shots in his left eye because his daughter thinks it's going to help. Why put someone who is 96 years old through that kind of pain because you're going to hope it's going to work? If it's a guarantee, that's something different. He can't guarantee he's going to see out of that eye. So I feel, why put someone through pain if it's not necessarily going to work? That's my sights myself. Sometimes, like when I put my clients' clothes on, I'll put the left pant leg, then I'll put the left sock on and left shoe on. Or the caregiver prior to me might have put the left foot on, sock on, the right shoe on, the left sock, the right sock on, and I don't do it that way. So it's hard for the patient to get used to every caregiver doing something different. So I would hate to be someone who had that many caregivers. That would be very tough on anyone. It depends on the person. Some of them I could get, like, I mean, just bringing them a donut would bring a smile on someone's face. Or, getting them outside, and I know if they like to go for a walk, that'll bring them up. Going to the park. It just depends on the person, because like each one is different. Because like one guy would like me to bring a donut to him. The other one would probably like if we just sat down outside and just like talked. It just depended on the person. Well, when I start any of my clients, I ask them, because a lot of them don't like me to dress with scrubs because they don't want to be associated. They want me to be more a friend than a caregiver or a nurse or whatever. When you're in the scrubs, you kind of feel like, So I asked them, would you rather me wear scrubs or would you rather me just wear plain clothes? And most of the time it's plain clothes because they want me to be more like a friend. And I really never have a problem with clients getting upset or anything like that. There might be like a couple, like I said, with the knife, with the peanut butter jelly sandwich, but nothing out of the ordinary. It's really, there was another lady, she had Alzheimer's, and I think it was because no one ever took her out for a walk, and her son is the one that hired me, and her son lived in the same city as she did, but he told me how to get to his house from her house. So she wanted to go for a walk. Well, none of the other people who worked with her liked to go outside with her because she never wanted to come in. Well, I don't have an issue because I like to be outside. So we went out for a walk and she didn't want to come back in. And we were out for like 4 hours walking and sitting outside. So I said, we got to go in. I said, I got to go to the bathroom. So I'm in the bathroom and she's swearing and yelling at me. Where the F are you? I'm like, I'm going to the bathroom. She pushed the door open and she had this big butcher knife. I'm like, oh my God. So I took all the knives out of the house and put them outside in the garage. And I called her son and I said, you know what? I cannot work with your mom if there's any knives in this room, in the house. I said, I don't have an issue, but I said, I can't have knives because I said, I explained to him when we went for a walk for 4 hours and stayed outside, I had to go to the bathroom and she came in the bathroom with the thing. So the next day I went back to work and there's all the knives back. And I said, why are all the knives back? He goes, well, don't you have to cook? I said, I don't want them. If I'm going to cook or something, I'll go out to the garage, get it, and then bring it back and put it back in the garage. So it didn't work out because I don't feel safe if that's going to happen. So that was one that I did have to say, I'm sorry. I have to leave. And of course, they called me back like 2 days later, but I said, okay, if you want me to come back, are the knives going to stay in the garage? And he said, no. I said, I'm sorry that I can't come back. Because you can't work somewhere if you don't feel safe. And I did not feel safe there. And that's probably the only one that I didn't feel safe. And it probably wasn't her. It was probably the disease because she wanted what she wanted. But I can't deal with that. Like she would fight all the aides for leaving because she didn't want to be left. But somebody was there all the time, but me. I would leave at 10 o'clock and she would be by herself. And I said to her son, I said, it's not fair because all the aides leave and I come to take care of her. And then I'm the one that has to leave her by herself. And she's mad because she doesn't want me to leave and she's standing in front of the door. So I would have to wait till she was asleep before I left because she would follow me outside. So I said, really, it's not safe for your mom, not just not safe for me. It's not safe for your mom to be out here when I'm leaving at 10 o'clock at night. I said, well, who's going to take care of your mom? So I think they ended up doing a live-in with her because it was getting to be too much. I think everyone needs a schedule. I mean, yeah, you could tweak it a little bit, but why don't you say Monday through Friday, we could be outside for 2 hours on the 7 to 3 shift. And from the 3 to 11, we'll be out for 2 hours, something like that. So there's a schedule. It's written down so everybody can see it. And then check it off if it's done. If it's raining, of course you can't go outside. So then we could tweak it and do something different. But I just think everything should have a schedule. But like I said, you could tweak it too, because like if it's raining, you can't go out, whatever. But it's too hard on one person to do everything and the one aide not to do nothing. Like, because a lot of times I would do all the laundry, all the cooking, all the cleaning. And then there wasn't too much time that I could spend with the client. And that's the reason why I'm there, because the other aides didn't do their job. Then it was all left for the person to do it all because they don't want to get in trouble. But then there's not time for the client. Everybody has to do their share. You can't just leave it for one person. And I'm the type of person if I have to give someone a shower, do range of motion, walk him, and give him something to eat, If that takes me more than the time that I'm supposed to be there, then I stay till it's done. I'm not the type of person, well, this today you're not going to get your range of motion because I ran out of time and it's 2 o'clock and I got to go home. I'm you gotta do what you have to do. You might have to manage your time a little different, but you can't do a lot of the things. You have to get them all done in your allotted time. And my client now, he takes a long time to eat. So I have to allow for that hour because he takes that whole hour to eat his meals. So I kind of get the eating done first and get it out of the way so I will have the time to do the other stuff. And it seems to work out more and I have a little bit of free time that I could do, other activities with them. Because usually I'm only there for like sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours. It just depends on who needs me for what. Well, there are wheelchairs that I absolutely love that will help them stand up. Like it's a seating wheelchair, but then it'll help them stand up because a lot of them, because I would take to therapies and a lot of the clients had that. But some of the insurances don't cover that. They might had a accident or whatever, and their insurance covered that or whatever. But I absolutely love that wheelchair because I've seen so many clients have that, and I think it's wonderful. I've A lot of my friends work with a lot of head injury clients when I did, and some of them had I don't know what it's called though. It's like a computer in front of them, like the one I had, but they have a thing because they couldn't move their hands. It would come out of their mouth, and it was like a stick, and they would push the letters with the stick, and they would use their mouth. That was very handy for clients. Um, I mean, there's things that you could buy like at the drugstore to help you put socks on. It looks like it's like a long band. It's like a plastic mold, and it helps you pull the sock on. That's a wonderful thing. Like if because we want the clients to do as much as they can for themselves so they don't lose that. So if you want them to brush their teeth and you could put the toothbrush on their, if they could do it themselves, let them do it. Don't do it for them because then that's losing the ability to do that, and then they're thinking, oh, I need someone to put toothpaste on my toothbrush now. So I try to let them do as much as they can, but when I see things like this that really could help them, I think that's wonderful. Wonderful. And you know what? When you were saying bed sores are so, so, so bad. And that is neglect on a facility or a home or whatever, because they are so bad. Oh my God. I worked for this lady. Oh, and I mean, I was the first one coming in, and she was in her home, and the aides didn't turn her. She had one right on her buttocks. And it was like, if you put both of your fists together, that's how big her bed sore was. It was so deep. And she would scream when the nurse would clean it out. And I'm not squeamish. I don't have a problem with blood or anything like that. So the nurse, showed me how to clean it and stuff. And I would tell her what I was going to do, and I was going to explain, and I said, "Honey, it's going to burn, but I'm going to do it now." She didn't scream as much as when the nurse did it because I was explaining to her what's going to happen, not just go out and just do it. You know what I'm saying? You got to explain, like that. But yeah, bed sores are bad. And another thing in facilities are changing people. Because, like when you said about going in to check on every 2 hours, good luck. That never happens because these people in these facilities, you walk in them and they smell. And then you have a person who's next to you might be sitting with with their group at the table and they smell horrendous because they need to be changed. And then it's like you tell somebody and they're on their aides are on their phone. Oh, I'll get to it. And the poor guy's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, he keeps asking to go to the bathroom. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And they're on their phone. That kills me when I see stuff like that. Well, there are things, I don't know what, again, I don't know what these things are called, but they look like it's an alarm. Usually they have it on the window ledges at facilities, and there might be a thing on the back of the chair, and it's attached like to the back of their clothes, like if they were to fall out of the wheelchair for the alarm to go off. But a lot of times the clients get know that, so then they'll take it off automatically and it'll go off. So they have to come up with something a little bit more tech that these clients find out, and then they'll take it off anyway. But I feel that there should be something in the rooms when the clients are in the rooms, especially like I told you, when they lock these doors. Because my client, I know, gets out of bed by himself, goes to the bathroom and goes to the bathroom, because when I come in the morning, there is both, urine and BM in the potty, and the aides have never even went in the room yet. So I know this is happening. So I am so afraid that he's going to fall in the middle of the night, and I'm going to get there in the morning and I'm going to be the one that's going to find him, not the home, because they're not going to hear him because he's locked in his room. And see, I'm really surprised that locking rooms are, an okay thing for these homes. 100% against that. They're like, well, they go in other people's rooms. I said, well, if you have aides here all the time and nurses right here, then they shouldn't be able to go in the other rooms. Instead of being on your phone and going somewhere to the bathroom or hanging out in someone's room when you don't have TV in this one, you go in this room and lay down on their bed and watch TV. That's not allowed. I mean, back when I worked at a nursing home, none of that stuff was allowed. I can't believe things that go on at these places now. It's a shame. And I know you said every state is different. You would think that there would have to be more than just three. You would I mean, I don't think I could do it if there was only three and there's 30, 40 people. That's 10 a person. If there was 30 people, that's a lot of people to keep your eye on. You would think at least five, at least. But these, but nobody stays with the job long enough. These, like I told you, the turnovers, because they don't get paid enough. I mean, back when I started, when I was through the agency, when I went to people's homes, they told me that I was the top getting paid, and that was $12. But again, that was 37, 38 years ago. Now, I'm going to tell you, are you familiar with any hockey? The Red Wings years ago had an accident with a limo. Do you remember that? And okay, there was a couple people, well, two of them passed away, and some of them got massively injured. One of them, his name is Vladimir Konstantinov, and he's on the Red Wings. And he's a paraplegic and he's in a wheelchair. And he would go to where I would take therapy, and I didn't know who he was. And his therapist, I would talk to his therapist like you and I would talk like now. And his name was Tim. And I said, Tim, I said, who is this chick keeps staring at me up and down? Like, who is this? And Tim goes, Dana, you don't know who that is. I'm like, no, who is it? I said, am I supposed to know her? She's like, that's Vladimir Konstantinov's wife. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, why is she watching me up and down? He goes, I don't know. So it come to find out, she wanted me to work for her husband. So she had came up to me and asked me, and I said, I'm very flattered that you asked me. I said, but I will not quit a client to start a new client to work with another client. So now this was, oh shit, this has been at least 20 years ago now. Now she asked for my phone number. She had my phone number. Do you know that she just called me November and she asked me again to work with him? And back, yes, and back that long ago, she was going to get me 20. She was going to give me $20. Now, when she called me November, she told me she would give me $45 an hour to take care of her husband. They're not even married anymore. They're divorced. She lives in Florida. He lives here. And I said, I am working for someone. And like I told you before, I won't quit a client to start a new client. And she goes, do you mind if I keep calling you to take care of my? I said, it doesn't matter. I said, hopefully one of these times you'll catch me when I don't have a client. But right now I have to decline. But I mean, right there tells you that it's very hard to find good people. It is. It really is. And for to come up, I give you so much credit, and I hope you can make all his dreams come true that you guys were working on, because it sounds like you have been working on a lot of things to help clients that need help in nursing homes or home living, wheelchairs, anything, because we need more of that, because there's very little out there that helps them. I would say, to make sure this is something that you want to do. I'd hate for someone to do it because you hear a lot about, oh, go in the medical field. There's a lot of money in it. Do this. You hear that so much, but you cannot just do it for the money, because really, you and I both know there's not that much money in caregiving, but you have to have the heart to do it. Don't go in it for the money, go in it because you love helping people. That's my I would say to them. And I would say be open and listen to other people, what they say, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's how you need to do it. But if someone is saying, well, I do, like, say, the Hoyer lift, if they do the Hoyer lift a certain way and they clip it this way, and I would do this and this and this, you could listen to how they do it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And take your time. Don't be in a hurry with any client. Don't be rushing them, because then when you come across like you're rushing, it comes across like you're mean with the client. You have to be slow. You have to talk loud. You have to take your time with them. It's kind of, it's hard for me to say this, but it's kind of like having a kid. It, it's like that. But you don't want to say that to them, but you have to treat it with kid gloves. You got to be slow, loud, and don't rush into stuff. But yeah, you hear so many people, oh yeah, there's a lot of money in medical. Don't go in it because someone says that. Go in it because you want to help somebody. That's what my first thing would be, I would say. And really, how many people could say that those, like with the cup and the knife, would say that they stayed with that person? Because if something like that would happen, they were out the door. But that's not me. I feel that's what I was on this earth to do, is to help people. And I honestly 100% say that, because how many people out there could say, I don't advertise, I don't look for jobs, they call me. So right there should tell you I am good at what I do. And I'm not a cocky person, but this is one thing I know about and I am very good at what I do. And I'm proud of that.
A major shout out to Dana for such an insider scoop into the healthcare industry at home and in long-term care facilities. If you are a caregiver or a patient and have a similar story, we would love to schedule a discussion with you. You can reach out to us at team@streamyourcare.com. If you have any suggestions or questions, please leave them down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube if you would like to see more content like this. As always, please take care of yourselves and keep an eye on your loved ones at home and in assisted living facilities. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to catch you next time.